Hey guys, welcome to the lesson on Introduction to Indian Scales for Guitar Music. We're going to be dealing with a couple of ragas today which have a strong relevance to the pentatonic scales you guys might be familiar with. Now, how does a raga differ from a scale? A raga basically is the same as a scale in terms of the physical structure, but has a certain specified grammar for the sliding technique which we call gamakas. These are the microtonal slides which produce intricate slide motions and tonal values between the scale notes. And gamakas are a very important aspect of Carnatic music, which is the South Indian classical form, which is what we are discussing today. And the two ragas which we are taking for study today are Pseudo Danza and Mohanam. Right? Now before we get on with the lessons, let me just take you through a little bit of gear requirements you might need before you start trying out the gamakas or the ragas on your guitar. So basically there are two tuning systems which you can use to play Carnatic music. One is the standard Western tuning, which is what I've got my guitar tuned on right now. So that's the EBGDAE tuning which we all know of Western music. Now the alternate Indian system tuning would be using the tonic and the dominance as alternate strings. So if I were to start from string number 6, I would probably tune it to D and then go upwards, D, A, D, A and D all the way down to the second string. And due to a feasibility issue, we wouldn't be really able to use the first string. So for this lesson, we'll be going with the standard Western tuning so that you guys can just keep your previous experience to start getting introduced to this. The next one you might need is this. Now this is basically a cotton dumpling I've had here, and I've got a few drops of coconut oil put inside them. You could use some oil which is not too viscous. You could also use a lubricant spray, but with my experience I believe this works much better. So what I'm going to do is just basically take these on the fingers which play, which are the index, middle and the ring finger, and rub it across the strings so that you get a good lubricating effect when you play the slides across the frets. So the first raga we are taking for demonstration is Pseudo Danza. Now let me take you through the notes of the raga. I'm going to be using the open D here as my sa, and then pa would be on the third string, and back to sa. So if I look at it, Pseudo Danza, we're going to play sa, and then the next note would be, which is going to be your Sadharana Gandharam or G2. And then the next note is the Suddha Madhyamam, Ma1, M1, and then that's the dominant note, Pa, and then that is Kaisiki Nishadam or N2, and then so the scale basically goes. Idea of the raga. Now, as we discussed earlier, the raga is definitely going to be different from the scale in terms of the slides. So let me just take you through the ascent and descent of the raga played with the slide. So the slide is what actually gives the beauty to the raga. So let's see how it goes. So watch carefully in the slides of the fingers and which notes they are touching and coming back, falling back on. So your sa is basically an open sa here, and your ga, I'm going to start right from the nut and go all the way to ma and come back to ga. So all with one strike at the open sa and then the plain ma, plain pa, and then we take the pa on the G string from the note A, and we do the same thing which we did for ga. So we slide all the way up to sa and come back to ni for the first, and then sa. So we put all this together. And on the descent, we're going to play slide back to me, basically the ascent and descent for Shuddha Danyasi. So the first technique is Jantai Varsai. We're going to be taking couplets of notes from the scale. So we play the first note, and then for the second note, the twin note, we're going to be basically sliding from the previous fret onto the same note. So it needs to be a quick slide, so it needs to be together as, so basically you put these things together so you make it sound as, and you do it for all the notes in the scale, in the raga. So basically two picks for every note. So the first pick and then the second pick with a slide from the previous fret. So we take the run once more. So that's basically the first technique, and it's called the Jantai Varsai. And next we're going to do two different runs for ascent and descent. We saw the basic ascent and descent run, how the raga works, the gamaka works for the raga. Next what we're going to do is take two different styles, one for the ascent and the descent, and after which we'll be putting these three techniques together to see how we can improvise on Shuddha Danyasi. So the second technique, if you've got to watch carefully, it's going to be a triplet. So I take it from Sa, the open Sa again. So I basically slide to the second note and the third note, giving emphasis on the middle note as well. Sa, ga, ma. And then the next one I take it from Ga and go ga, ma, ma. And then the next one, so all the way up to the Sa of the next octave. So let's do it together. So let's now take it with the flow. So that's the second technique. And the third one is a slightly different one than this, and we take it on the descent. We start with the Sa from the higher octave. And in a way this is linked to the first Jantai Varsai we saw. The sounding is pretty much same, but the technique is a little different. So basically we take it at Sa, we go all the way to the previous note of the scale, unlike in Jantai where we took the previous fret. So, and another important thing to note is we're just using one pick. So it's one pick and back at Sa from the previous note. And if you're going to do it for the next note, it will be. Alright, so if you're just going to put it together, all together, it's going to sound like much quicker. So let's take the ascent and descent with the two different styles together, see how it goes. So these are basically the three techniques we're going to be using for Shuddha Danyasi. Now let's see how we could improvise on this raga by putting these things together. next, let's see how Mohanam works. So, to start off with the scale, this is basically a second inversion of Pseudo Danza which we saw. So when you take the pentatonic scale, if you're going to start the scale with your second note, so for instance, if you're taking D as your tonic and you start the pentatonic with E, you get Mohanam. So that's just a comparison, but we're going to start playing Mohanam in the same way in scale D, with the key D. So basically the notes goes, the second note is actually a Chaturshruti Rishabham, which is your R2. And then your Ga is again, it's Antara Gandharam, which is G3. And your dominant Pa. Your Da will be Chaturshruti Devatam, which is D2. And then Sa. That's the scale. Let's see how we play the ascent and descent on the gamakam. So we take Sa, and the next run we take it up to Ga and come back to Re. So then next note is plain, and the next plain note again with the Pa on the G string, and then slide all the way up to the Sa and get back to that. So together. And then all the way back, we slide back, single slides. So we come back from Sa to Da. This is the most interesting part. We're going to be using an interesting slide here. The first slide will be Ga to Re. The second slide, so basically you take the semitone between the two notes, Re and Ga. You might wonder it's not on the scale, but that's the best part of our gamakas. We have what these are called the anuswaras, or the microtonal notes, which don't feature necessarily on the grammar of the raga, but they definitely feature on the gamaka technique. So on the way back, the last slide is, so that's the most interesting part of Mohanam. So alright guys, so hope you had a nice time with a couple of Carnatic ragas. So till next time we meet on another lesson, keep those gamakas flowing and happy guitar playing. Bye-bye.